In the deep hush of twilight, when the sky was painted in hues of dusky violet and molten gold, a sly, hungry fox named Faro lay awake under the tangled branches of an ancient oak. His amber eyes glimmered with secret dreams and covetous desires as he envisioned a sumptuous feast that danced tantalizingly before his mind's eye. The target of his longing was no ordinary meal—it was the plump, golden chickens that roamed carefree inside the snug henhouse of old McGregor's farm. In his feverish reverie, Faro could almost taste the savory meat, his mind already counting the riches of his anticipated bounty long before they were rightfully his. Faro's reputation as a cunning and opportunistic creature was well known in the whispering winds of the countryside. Every rustle of the underbrush carried with it murmurs of his exploits, and every creature in the forest eyed him with both awe and trepidation. Yet, his ambition had often clouded his reason, and on this particular evening, his dreams grew so vivid that he began to scheme his approach to the henhouse with reckless haste. He imagined himself slipping silently through the shadows, bypassing the slumbering dogs and the watchful eyes of the farmhands, and finally pouncing on the unsuspecting chickens as if they were merely prizes to be collected. The henhouse itself was a marvel of rustic charm structure built from weathered timber and stone, its roof sagging ever so slightly under the weight of countless seasons. Within its cozy walls, a family of chickens clucked and pecked merrily, oblivious to the dangers lurking in the dark. Yet, amid these feathery inhabitants, there was one whose vigilance and wit shone as brightly as the rising sun. Reginald, the proud and clever rooster, with a plumage of iridescent reds and shimmering greens, Reginald was not only the herald of dawn, but also the self-appointed guardian of his feathery flock. His proud stance atop the henhouse's perch served as both a beacon of morning hope and a steadfast warning to any who dared disturb his domain. That night, as Faro slinked through the tall, dew-drenched grass toward the farm, his mind was already a whirlwind of plans and daydreams. He pictured himself basking in the spoils of victory, his belly full and his reputation as the cleverest predator in the land firmly cemented. By the morrow, he mused in a low, velvety tone, I shall count the riches of my feast, even before the first light of dawn has graced the sky. For surely the chickens shall be mine, and their clucks the melody of my triumph. Yet fate, as it often does, had woven a different tapestry that night. The moon, a silent sentinel in the star-flecked sky, watched with impassive serenity as Faro slunk closer and closer to the farm. The crisp air was filled with a blend of night-blooming flowers and the soft chirps of crickets, setting a stage where nature's timeless dance of predator and prey was about to take an unexpected turn. Inside the henhouse, Reginald was already awake, his keen eyes surveying the calm darkness with measured intensity. He had seen many dangers in his time and had learned the art of caution and preparation. While the other chickens were lulled into a false sense of security by the rhythmic sounds of the farm at night, Reginald's mind was alive with strategies and alertness. His sharp instincts told him that something was amiss on this cool, quiet night. As the first tendrils of dawn began to soften the horizon, Faro crept closer to his prize. He slid his lithe, agile body along the fence and skirted around the dimly lit corners of the yard. In his heart, he repeated his dream of feasting, recounting in his mind every plump detail. I shall have the choicest of chickens, and they will fill my belly before I even count them, he murmured, his voice a silken whisper that mingled with the night's gentle breeze. But As fate would have it, his dark designs were not to be carried out unchallenged. High above the scurrying fox, Reginald fluffed his majestic feathers and spread his wings in a quiet display of authority. Sensing the intruder with an intuition honed by years of vigilance, the rooster let out a sharp, piercing clarion call that sliced through the silence. "Hark! Intruder on our lands!" Reginald's voice rang out like a trumpeting fanfare, jolting the farm awake to a threat they had not expected. At the sound of the rooster's cry, the slumbering farm came alive with a flurry of activity. The loyal dogs stirred from their beds, their ears pricked, and their eyes gleaming with protective fury. The chickens, usually a chorus of gentle clucks and soft peeps, scurried in a panicked flurry, their instincts alerting them to the looming danger. Meanwhile, Faro, caught off guard by the unexpected alarm, found himself frozen in his tracks for a brief, excruciating moment. The taste of his imagined feast slipped away like smoke on the wind, replaced by a sudden dread that chilled him to the bone. In that heartbeat of hesitation, Reginald seized his opportunity. With a burst of agile movement, the clever rooster flapped his wings and soared down from his perch, landing gracefully on a low fence post near the henhouse. His eyes, sharp as ever, locked onto the intruding fox with a mix of defiance and determination. "Foul beast," Reginald called out in a measured tone, his voice resonating with the authority of someone who had seen many trials. "You presume to count your chickens before they have even hatched, dreaming of fortunes that are yet uncertain." Faro's ears twitched in annoyance, and for a moment, his pride was wounded by the rooster's audacity. "And who are you to preach on matters of fate and fortune?" he retorted, his voice a silken growl that masked the tremor of fear beneath. "I am Faro, the swift, the cunning, and I claim what destiny has promised me." Reginald's eyes glimmered with the calm assurance of someone who had weathered many storms. "Destiny," he replied, "is not a prize to be grasped with reckless haste. It is earned through patience, wisdom, and the understanding that fortune may change with the rising sun. Do not count your chickens before they have hatched, for your greed blinds you to the dangers that lie in wait." The standoff between the two adversaries drew the attention of every creature on the farm. The ancient oak tree above, whose gnarled branches had borne witness to countless seasons, seemed to lean in as if to listen to the unfolding lesson. The wind hushed its whispered secrets, and even the stars above appeared to twinkle with anticipation. In that charged moment, the stage was set not just for a clash of wits, but for a timeless lesson in the art of patience and the perils of presumptuous dreams. Faro, unwilling to be outshone by a mere rooster, narrowed his eyes and began to plot a countermove. "I may be swift, and my hunger may be boundless," he mused to himself as he slunk behind a clump of brambles, his mind racing to outmaneuver the clever bird. "But I shall not be outwitted by a creature so small and insignificant. If I can but seize one of those chickens before the rooster can alert the entire farm, then my triumph will be complete." Thus began a series of cunning maneuvers and devious strategies orchestrated by Faro, each one more desperate than the last. Under the shroud of the deep night, he attempted to circumnavigate the perimeter of the henhouse, skirting the edges of the glowing lanterns and dodging the watchful eyes of the guard dogs. Yet every time he crept near the entrance, Reginald's cry would echo out like a clarion call, and the chickens would scatter, leaving no prize for the fox to seize. In one particularly daring attempt, Faro devised an elaborate ruse. He found a discarded weathered piece of cloth near the barn and fashioned it into a makeshift disguise, hoping to impersonate a wandering farmhand. With his tail held high in a facade of false confidence, he strutted toward the henhouse as if he belonged among the caretakers. But Reginald, ever vigilant, peered down from his elevated post, his beady eyes piercing the disguise with surgical precision. "Your ruse is as thin as the morning mist," he crowed loudly enough to rouse the entire farm. "Return to the shadows from whence you came, and learn that greed often leads to a fall." Humiliated and frustrated, Faro slinked away, his dreams of an easy feast dashed upon the rocky shore of reality. Yet, the fox's pride was a fire that burned too brightly to be quenched so easily. Instead of retreating entirely, he resolved to wait in the darkness, biding his time for the perfect moment when the guard would slack and the chickens might be caught off guard. Days passed, and the cycle of scheming and foiled attempts became a familiar rhythm on old McGregor's farm. Each night, Faro would appear like a shadow at the edges of the fields, his amber eyes fixed on the well-lit henhouse. But each night, Reginald was there as well, a vigilant sentinel whose unwavering gaze ensured that no intruder could steal away the promise of tomorrow. And each day, the chickens hatched new, life little bundles of down and promised that chirped merrily under the gentle care of their mother, hence reminding Faro that fortune was not as easily grasped as he had imagined. One crisp morning, as the first light of dawn caressed the dew-laden grass, Faro found himself contemplating the slow, inexorable march of time. Perched in the silence of a shadowed copse near the farm, he watched as the sun's golden rays ignited the sky in a spectacle of fire and wonder. The world around him was alive with possibility, the rustling leaves, the distant calls of waking birds, and the gentle hum of life itself. And yet, even in this tranquil moment, his thoughts were marred by the gnawing ache of unfulfilled desire. "I must be patient," he muttered to himself, his voice low and grudging. "For every moment of waiting is a moment closer to my destiny." But in the recesses of his mind, the old habit of premature counting, the reckless dreaming of feasts that might never come, still lingered. He began to imagine the future with such vivid detail that he could almost see the glistening fat of the chickens, the clamor of his triumphant laughter echoing through the night. His thoughts danced dangerously close to a celebration that was not yet his. Unbeknownst to Faro, his inner musings were being observed with keen interest by a small, unassuming creature, young chick named Petunia, who had recently hatched from her fragile shell. Petunia, with her soft, downy feathers and curious eyes, was the embodiment of potential and hope. As she peeped from the safety of her nesting box, she listened intently to the murmurs of the world beyond and caught fragments of Faro's whispered dreams. In her innocence, she did not yet understand the full gravity of his ambition, but she sensed the danger that lurked in the shadows of greed. The day wore on, and as the sun climbed higher in the sky, the farm bustled with the routines of daily life. Old McGregor, a kindly soul with weathered hands and a gentle smile, tended to his fields and cared for his animals with a devotion born of years of honest labor. He knew each creature by name and respected the delicate balance that nature had woven on his land. His wise eyes, having seen both plenty and want, recognized the dangers of unchecked ambition. "Don't count your chickens before they hatch," he would say with a knowing chuckle to his neighbors. His voice, a soft reminder that life's fortunes were never guaranteed until they were earned through patience and hard work. That very evening, as the sky turned a deep, inky blue and the stars began their nightly vigil, Faro made one final, audacious attempt to breach the henhouse. This time, he had refined his plan to near perfection. He slunk closer than ever before, his heart pounding in his chest as he crept along the fence. His eyes flicked nervously to the barn where the dogs slept, and then to the dimly lit outline of the henhouse. In his mind, he recounted every detail of his anticipated victory, each thought a step closer to a feast that had yet to materialize. But just as he neared the door, Reginald, perched high upon a rickety beam that overlooked the entrance, sprang into action. With a flurry of feathers and a strident, commanding cry, the rooster leaped from his perch and landed squarely in Faro's path. "Hold, you misguided soul," Reginald declared, his voice echoing through the night like a clarion bell. "Your dreams of plunder are built on the fragile foundation of empty promises. You count your chickens before they have even hatched, and in doing so, you have blinded yourself to the reality of your own greed." Faro snarled, his eyes flashing with indignation. "I have bided my time, clever bird," he spat, his voice trembling with both anger and desperation. "The moment is near. I will have my feast, and nothing, not even your prattle, can stop me." With that, a chase erupted that sent shockwaves through the quiet farm. Faro darted toward the henhouse, his lithe form a blur against the dark backdrop, while Reginald swooped gracefully in pursuit, his wings beating a rhythmic cadence of determination. The chase was a ballet of agility and cunning. Each maneuver, every twist and turn, was a testament to the skill of both predator and protector. The farm animals watched from afar, their eyes wide with a mix of terror and awe, as the timeless dance of ambition and wisdom unfolded beneath the silent gaze of the moon. For a time, it seemed as though Faro might indeed succeed in outsmarting his feathered adversary. His swift movements allowed him to breach the outer defenses of the henhouse, his heart pounding in a triumphant cadence that promised a quick victory. But Reginald was ever vigilant, his mind racing with counter-strategies that belied his modest size. At a critical moment, as Faro's paw reached out to snatch a particularly plump chicken, Reginald feinted a dive toward the fox's flank, causing Faro to misjudge his path. The fox stumbled, his momentum broken, and in that fleeting second, the entire henhouse erupted in a flurry of commotion. Alarmed clucks filled the air as the chickens scattered, each one darting to safety behind their makeshift barricades. Faro, now disoriented and exposed in the cold light of reality, found himself beset by the vigilant dogs and the piercing eyes of Reginald, who landed gracefully in front of him. "Your haste has been your undoing," the rooster declared, his tone both triumphant and sorrowful. "Had you only known that patience and wisdom are the true guardians of fortune, you might not have risked everything on the mere promise of a future feast." Battered by his own ambition and humbled by the clever interventions of the vigilant rooster, Faro retreated into the dark embrace of the forest. His dreams of easy riches had been shattered, and in their place remained a bitter lesson, a lesson that no matter how sweet the promise of future gain, one must not count one's chickens before they have truly hatched. In the days that followed, the memory of that fateful night became a cautionary tale whispered among the creatures of the farm and the woodland alike. Reginald, with his dignified bearing and calm resolve, continued to serve as the guardian of the henhouse, his every crow a reminder of the virtues of prudence and restraint. The chickens, once oblivious to the threats that lurked beyond their enclosure, grew to understand that true safety and prosperity come not from rash action, but from careful planning and cooperation. Old McGregor, wise as the hills and gentle as the morning dew, would often sit on his weathered porch and watch the animals with a twinkle in his eye. "It's a fine lesson indeed," he would murmur to anyone who cared to listen, "that the future should be earned with sweat and perseverance, not merely dreamed of in the quiet hours of night." His words, imbued with a lifetime of experience, resonated deeply with the farm's inhabitants, who learned to appreciate the slow, steady unfolding of life, a life in which every moment was earned rather than assumed. As autumn gave way to winter, and the golden fields lay bare under a crisp, icy sky, Faro's visits to the farm became less frequent. The fox, now older and wearier from his repeated failures, had begun to understand that his unchecked greed had cost him dearly. In the solitude of the forest, surrounded by ancient trees and the quiet wisdom of nature, Faro reflected on the fleeting nature of dreams built on the shaky foundation of impatience. He came to see that true fortune was not something to be grasped with greedy paws, but something that unfolded slowly, like the delicate petals of a flower greeting the morning sun. In the heart of that same winter, a new season of life began within the henhouse. The chickens, nurtured by the gentle care of old McGregor and the constant vigilance of Reginald, began to hatch their eggs. Tiny beaks emerged from fragile shells, and soft down spread like whispers of hope across the warm straw. Each hatchling was a symbol of promise and potential, a living reminder that life's treasures were worth waiting for, and that every small beginning could blossom into something magnificent if given time and care. Petunia, the little chick who had once listened in wonder to Faro's boastful dreams, grew stronger and bolder with each passing day. Under Reginald's watchful eye, she learned the ways of the farm, a delicate balance of caution and curiosity, of ambition tempered by the wisdom of experience. The rooster would often perch near her, his voice gentle and reassuring, as he recounted the events of that fateful night when the greedy fox had learned his lesson. Thus, the legacy of that turbulent night endured through the seasons, woven into the fabric of the farm's history like an enduring parable. The animals, from the lowliest field mouse to the stately horses in the barn, came to appreciate the value of restraint and the dangers of impulsive greed. They learned that while ambition was a virtue in itself, it needed to be tempered with wisdom, humility, and a deep understanding of the natural order of things. In time, even Faro began to change. Though he never lost the cunning spark that had defined him, the fox's repeated encounters with failure had instilled in him a grudging respect for the patience and foresight of those around him. He started to understand that the world was not a place where one could simply dream of tomorrow's riches without the labor and risk of the present. The rooster's every action exuded wisdom and measured care, a living testament to the virtues of patience and forethought. In that quiet moment, as the world around him awakened to a new day, the fox came to understand that every creature had its place and time. And so, as the seasons turned and the farm thrived under the gentle guidance of old McGregor and the steadfast protection of Reginald, the tale of the greedy fox and the clever rooster became a cherished lesson in the lore of the land. Parents would recount the story to their young, their voices soft and earnest, as they reminded them never to count their chickens before they had hatched. The moral was simple yet profound. Patience and prudence are the true guardians of fortune, while haste and greed often lead to disappointment. even as the sun rose and set, casting long shadows across the fields and filling the air with the promise of another day. The legacy of that night remained etched in the hearts of all who dwelled on the farm. For in the end, it was not the swift or the greedy who reaped the rewards of life's bounty, but those who understood that the most precious treasures are born from time, effort, and the humble acceptance of life's unpredictable rhythms. And so, dear listener, as you journey through life with hopes and dreams in your heart, remember the tale of Faro the fox and Reginald the rooster. Let it be a gentle reminder that while it is human to dream of success and abundance, true fulfillment is found in the patience to let each moment unfold in its own time. Do not count your chickens before they hatch, for each egg holds its own promise that, with care and diligence, will one day blossom into something far more magnificent than you ever dared to imagine. In the twilight of many future nights, as you hear the soft crow of a rooster heralding the dawn, think of the little ones waiting to emerge, the dreams that must be nurtured, and the fortunes that must be earned. For it is in the steady, unhurried march of time that life reveals its most beautiful secrets, a gentle reminder that the sweetest victories are those that are patiently and rightfully won. Thus, the legacy of that enchanted farm endures, a legacy of wisdom passed from one generation to the next, woven into every sunrise and every whispered breeze across the fields. The tale, rich in its colorful imagery and resonant in its moral, continues to inspire those who believe that true prosperity is not achieved by counting on a dream, but by working steadfastly for every promise that the future holds. And so it is that in the soft glow of each new morning, the chorus of life on the farm sings a quiet hymn to the virtue of patience, a melody that reminds us all to wait, to nurture, and to never, ever count our chickens before they have had the chance to hatch.